listened to that, and I just remembered a story I heard last week about this really mean guy, this abusive guy died. They were having his funeral, and the preacher was just extolling his virtues. And Mama nudged her son and said, "Go up there and look in the casket and see who they're talking about." So it sort of reminded me that joke fell flat. Which reminds me, I'm rewriting my speech because I've got jokes worse than that, and I'm going to pay you $5 for it.
You can give some out the bill.
Yeah. But anyway, I am glad to be here. I was with the troops in Iraq. We did hit an IED, and we were lucky to be here. I see General Rohde, he's now retired and living over in Eaton. My column runs over there. So we're in correspondence with each other, and I will tell him a kind compliment. I never got a standing ovation, so but I wasn't a general. But he is a great, great man, and he's now working on some projects outside of military life now that he's retired. But it is good to be back, and thank you for the support of the troops over in Afghanistan. I hope to God we get out of this place one of these days. But anyway, I was due here last September, I believe it was, Lord, and contracted pneumonia. And I mean, I got the bad case of it, and I was coming anyway, and I had the somewhat misfortune to be married to a nurse. And the nurse said, "You ain't going anywhere." And so I had to stay bedridden for several weeks till I got over the pneumonia. But I'm happy to say that I'm fully recovered. Had my physical a couple of weeks ago. Doctor checked me out and he said, "Dick, you are just in fantastic shape. I just really like the way you're taking care of yourself." And he said, how's everything else? And I said, "Well, Doc, my spiritual life is probably the best it's ever been." He said, "Is that right?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I get up at night, you know, sometimes go to the bathroom, and God lights my way. And then go back to bed, and God turns the light out, and go back to the bathroom, and God lights up the way again." And the doctor was looking sort of puzzled, so he sent me out to the waiting room. He called my wife, Jane, in. He said, "Jane, I think Dick is in magnificent health. He's done a good job with him, but I'm a little worried about this up here." So he talks about his spirituality, and every time he goes to the bathroom, God lights the way for him. And Jane said, "Oh my God, he's peeing in the refrigerator again." But there are some advantages to being old, and I admit to being old, but I try to be young at heart. But one of my favorite stories about old people is about the man that was out on the lake, and he was fishing, and nobody around, just totally isolated. And he hears a voice say, "Pick me up." You know, there was nobody there. So he cast out again, his voice says, "Pick me up." So he keeps looking around, he looks over on the lily pad, and there sits a frog. The frog said, "Pick me up." So the old man rolled over and picked the frog up, and the frog said, "If you will kiss me, I will turn into a voluptuous woman, and I will satisfy every desire you ever had." The old man looked at it, puts the frog in his pocket. The frog said, "Did you hear me? I said if you would kiss me, I would turn into a voluptuous woman and satisfy every desire you ever had." And the guy said, "At my age, I'd rather have a talking frog." I noticed several guys in there going, "Yeah." But I am back at full throttle now. If you read my column, you know that I'm ecumenical. I pick on Democrats and Republicans alike. And just if you have an ego and you're humor impaired, chances are you will find your way into my column, as you will see over the next several weeks. But I like picking on politicians. One of my favorite stories I tell about him is about the guy that was walking through the jungle, and he came up on a clearing, and it was a cannibal village. And he looked around, and there was a cannibal restaurant. And they had a little menu out front, and it said boiled missionaries, $5, fried explorers, $7.50, politicians, $25. And the guy went to the chef and he said, how come you charge so much for politicians? And the chef said, have you ever tried cleaning one? But anyway, I enjoy writing about politics. I was telling Roy, all the money I get goes to scholarships of the University of Georgia for young people that allows them to travel and to have internships, and it's very rewarding opportunity. So I just write because I got things I want to say, and at the same time help these young people who are very grateful for the opportunity. But Will Rogers said he didn't do comedy, he just watched Congress and reported on what they did. And I said if Will had the Georgia Legislature to go with Congress, his cup would runneth over. Because we've got some really fascinating characters in the legislature. And one of my favorites, and he really is a good friend, and talked to him last week, he's one of my favorites, is Earl Earhart over here in Powder Springs. I call Earl my quote machine. Because Earl will say things that you just read and say, nobody can say that. But Earl can say it. Because he gets mad and he just gets, you know, really angry and he just lets it hang out. And you may remember a few years back, he got mad at Casey Cagle, our lieutenant governor, over a dispute over the budget. And Earl got so mad, he called our lieutenant governor Eddie Haskell. Now, that was a shocker to the 11 people who still remember Leave It to Beaver. But he did call him that, and I thought the lieutenant governor showed a lot of character and discipline not to refer to Earl as Lumpy Rutherford. But Earl has outdone himself this time, and I had to tease him. He's embarrassed when he does it, but he gets mad and he says it. And I called him out and said, did you really say that? And he said, yes, I said. But, you know, the state has no problems currently. We're at full employment. Our schools are just going lickety-split. More economic development than we can put people. So Earl is dealing with one of the seminal issues that otherwise we wouldn't be able to deal with, and that's for you to be able to keep 10 chickens in your yard. Which is, as you all know, is, you know, that's probably our most critical issue right now. And he wants you to keep chickens and rabbits in your yard, and is working on this piece of legislation. And the homeowners associations of the state, whether it's one or several, oppose Earl. And they don't want people to be able to have chickens in their yard. And Earl got just furious with them and said this. They reminded him, I'm going to watch the shock on your face, they reminded him of Miss Kravitz. Hear the shock? Miss Kravitz was a minor character on Bewitched, which hasn't been on the air in 45 years. And the homeowners association didn't know if they'd been insulted or not, because they didn't know who Miss Kravitz was either. They probably wanted him around when Bewitched was on. But he called him Miss Kravitz. Now, by God, that'll make them think twice before they oppose chicken yards. Nobody wants to be known as Miss Kravitz, whoever that is. But I would tell Earl that I enjoy that and that I love to pick on him, but he would probably call me Alfalfa, so I do leave him alone. But Earl's not the only one that gets exasperated with me. I'm not real happy about TSPLOST because I don't have anybody telling me, you know, what the benefits are. I've been lectured a lot, but I haven't had anybody say, let's sit down and talk about it. It's just, this is for your good, which always scared me. Increased taxes are for my good, but I don't like them either. But I had a lawyer write a letter, op-ed piece, and said, we here in Cobb County, we've got to do something about our traffic. We have people, my neighbors around here are trying to get around and can't do it. And our friends over in Paulding County and Bartow County, they're having trouble getting around. And it was just this plea, we got to have this 8-mile rail line down to Midtown so people in Paulding County can get down to Midtown, assuming anybody in Paulding County wants to go to Midtown. And so I didn't know who he was and hadn't heard about him, so I looked him up. And he's a silk-stocking Democrat lawyer that lives in a high-rise in Midtown. Well, I thought as a public service it would be nice to politely point that out in my next column, and I did, with a few adjectives. You know, you got to have 750 words, so I put a few ads like stupid and dumb, fool, and things like that in there. Well, he got furious, and he wrote another op-ed and said he got so mad at me that he had to go jog around the block. Now, that is information you really want to know. I mean, how else could we sell SPLOST other than if you get mad, you run around the block? And I wanted to ask him why he didn't take the MARTA train down 5 Points, but he was too mad to talk to him. But he got very angry, but the crowning blow, and I've had a lot of things shock me in my career of writing this column in my 15th year. This is an actual quote. He called me, are you ready? Not Miss Kravitz. He called me a nattering nabob of negativism. Now this is a Democrat. And the best he could do to insult me was to pull out an old line from Spiro Agnew. You remember Spiro's negativism nabob thing? Well, that's what he called me. And I'm trying to help the Democrats to understand they're broke and about to go out of business. But I've been trying to do a better job for the Democrat. And last week I succeeded. I got a letter from a reader, and I don't save a lot of my letters, but I save those as significant. And this reader said I was the most liberal writer outside of Jay Bookman of the AJC in the state of Georgia. Now that's all I can do to help the Democrats right there, is to be the second most liberal person. And I've written to the ACLU and asked them for an apology because they don't think I'm very liberal. Let me cover a couple of serious matters with you, and if we got time for a few questions, I'll do that. Let me do the second one first, because I know that Denise McGee is here. But tomorrow, you might want to put gloves on to read my column, because I am not happy with the legislature, which is my understatement. Next to the sun will rise in the east. I'm just really tired of legislators picking on public school teachers. I've got 4 in my family. I've got a son-in-law who has a PhD, has been teaching high school for 25 years, been a coach. I've got a son who is in his 11th year as a high school science teacher. I've got a grandson who is just in his 1st year as a high school science teacher. When those 3 get together, I don't know where your academic department is in public education, but they could be talking Spanish for all I know, because everything they say is fab-wrapped and locked up, or y'all doing the whip-wop and the whip-whip, but they are committed public school teachers. And my grandson has married a young lady who is a middle school teacher. I called a prominent member of the legislature after my grandson was married and the 2 of them were hired, and I called him up and I said, you know, I've got 2 kids and teaching public schools. And he said, yes. I said, well, now I have 4. And he said, oh my God. And he was right, because I'm very defensive of public school teachers. And so tomorrow I'm just talking about what the public school teachers done to legislators to be treated the way they're being treated. And I was fascinated to find out that Representative Jan Jones says that teachers in Georgia are the highest compensated in the United States, which I know will come as a surprise to them, since my son hadn't had a raise in 5 years, but his expenses keep going. So anyway, tomorrow will be I don't think anybody read that column and say, what did he mean? I think you will know. My second issue, and I'm getting a little traction on this, is we have no logging limits in the state of Georgia. I was on the State Ethics Commission, as Roy said, for 5 years. And I know a little bit about ethics. I know a little bit about campaign finance. I know a little bit about lobbying. And for our lawmakers, and they're not all of them, and by the way, people in the legislature are good people. They do this with people like me carping at them all the time, but they're mainly good people. But there's some in there that sort of lose a little traction with their voters. When I'm being the Speaker of the House, we've got a maglev train up here in Powder Springs, and he had to go with his family and his chief of staff and his chief of staff's family to Germany to see a maglev train. Well, I could have sent him over to Powder Springs for a lot less than $17,000. So I'd have bought his lunch over there. It probably cost me $4 or $5. But he had to go over to Germany and somewhere else. I don't know. Where's a boondock? It was a boondock. And so I have written a column about lobbying limits, and thank goodness some people have taken me up on that, and they're writing them and getting sort of huffy replies back. But if you hear a legislator tell you it makes no difference, my question would be to them, then why do lobbyists spend $1,600,000 a year? It must make some difference, or they wouldn't spend the money. And the other thing is, if we have lobbying limits, this will go underground. Well, that says that lawmakers are dishonest and disingenuous, and neither one of those is true. If 47 other states do it, you know, it must work. And you may have read in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution about North Carolina did it recently, and it hasn't caused any big deal. But it keeps you and I from having the kind of influence with our legislator that somebody that will send them on a trip to Germany or play golf with them or take them out to fancy restaurants. It just needs limits. And so that is my other issue that I'm going to be working on. So lobby limits and education. Let me back up on education a minute. I have no problem with charter schools, private schools, virtual schools, home schools, if you will tell me how it fits in the total scheme of education. And I don't hear that. And I've asked Chip Rogers and several people. Chip Rogers is mad at me, by the way. He's the Senate Majority Leader, and it's my fault. But I have no discipline. And a couple of years ago, Chip Rogers and another legislator named Chip introduced a bill about microchips. Now, what self-respecting columnist could let Chip and microchips go by? And I wrote in there that when that bill passed, it keeps us, by the way, from having microchips placed on our body parts without our permission, which I favor. Because if I go to the potty, I don't want everybody that's connected to New York knowing where I am and what I'm doing. So I was very supportive of what they're trying to do. But I wrote in there after it was passed that Chip Rogers ran down the hall yelling, "Nanu, Nanu." And he really didn't like that. And so Chip showed me that he was humor impaired, and that's a bad thing to know. So anyway, if he or somebody would tell me what the total plan for public education is, or education in general, I'll support it. But so far, I just see him cannibalizing public education, which is I accuse him of tomorrow. Well, enough talks. I'll try one more joke and get my $5 out. But we spend a lot of time down at St. Simon's, as Roy said, and we were down there this past year, this past winter rather, and there was a fellow up on the Sidney Lanier Bridge, and he was about to jump off into the bay out there. And this lady stopped the car and says, "Sir, please don't do that." And he said, "I've got nothing to live for." And she said, "You've got your family." He says, "I have no family." So, "Well, you've got a mother and father." He said, "No, I have no mother and father." "What about your friends?" "I have no friends whatsoever." "Well, surely being from Georgia, you're a supporter of our Georgia Bulldogs." He said, "What the hell is a Georgia Bulldog?" And she said, "Jump." Let me ask you if you got any questions. Anybody got any questions? All right, if you don't, I'll tell 2 more jokes and risk $5. Yes, sir.
I'll come up with one. I noticed, like you said, I don't listen to the news a whole lot, but I noticed there was an abortion bill and a vasectomy bill. The
Yeah.
two got mixed together.
Yeah.
What's your take on that, sir?
I think it would hurt. I think it'd make my eyes water. I don't know if I'm going to do that or not. I saw her point in doing that. I really did. That, you know, if you're going to govern what women do, let's govern what men do. And so it was a kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing, but it brings up an interesting point, by the way, and this is a serious point. There are a lot of young people in the legislature now, and they're not bound by the old rules of the old ruling guard. They're more independent. And so when something like this happens, it's just an indication, as are several other things, including lobby limit bills, that people are not going to adhere to somebody coming in and saying, "This is the way you would vote." So that was a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but it was an indication of the fact that a lot of members of the legislature are getting more and more independent because they're more concerned about what their constituents think than they are about what the leadership thinks. So, yes, sir.
Mr. Yarbrough, all the columns you've written, say, the past 10, 15 years, is there one that maybe above all you think you've written where you went completely against the tide, and now you just love to say, I told you so?
Yeah. When the Islamic terrorists bombed the ship, long before terrorism, I wrote a scathing editorial about that. And so bad that the paper was threatened. And I did one thing I regretted and wish I had done it, but I wrote a kind of a half-hearted apology, because it was offensive, it really was. Well, after 9/11, I can say I told you so. So I'm proud of that. I'm also proud of the column, and I don't remember the column, but I remember the comment. It was after 9/11. And a reader wrote me, my column runs all over Georgia, so I don't know exactly where this came from, but said, I have not laughed since 9/11, and you made me laugh. Thank you. And boy, I tell you, that makes it all worthwhile. Yes, sir.
How does a person become a columnist?
You got too much time on your hands. How does a person become a columnist? A very quick story, because it's applicable to my being here. When the games were over, the 1996 games, and I had retired, and I'm just the biggest liar in the world. I told my wife, I really am retiring, and she, you're not retired. Oh, yes, I am. So I hung around 2 years working on my short game, which never did get better, and planting flowers and so forth. Atlanta Business Chronicle called me 2 years after the games and said, would you write a column on Atlanta 2 years after the games? And I said, I can't do it because we're going to Scotland the next day. True, this is a true story right down to every word of it. Of course, everything's up to be true, too. But anyway, I said, I can't do it because we're going to Scotland. Taking a son and daughter-in-law. My wife's family's from Scotland. They said, well, just 700 words and something. So I said, okay. So I rose up and we got on a plane. We went to Scotland, went to St. Andrews, which is where our dear friends are. Went into the hotel, went to our room, and the phone was blinking. And it said, you've got messages and you need to call home. Well, sprinklers out of order and neighbors are calling or somebody, but what in the world's happening? Well, it was people, my mailbox was full that said it cannot take any more calls. And it was people reacting to my column, which I told my wife I was only going to write one. And what I said was that Atlanta blew the games. That the business community was too busy trying to make a buck. The media was totally out of their class. Bill Campbell and his henchmen not only didn't support us, but they started a rival program to take competing sponsors away from them. And that Atlanta just blew the games. And I said, Atlanta, if Atlanta could suck like it could blow, it'd have the Atlantic Ocean in its city limits. And not only are we not the next great city, but Charlotte has taken that title along with all of our banks. And that was the good part of it. I'm going to tell you the other part. And good Lord of mercy, you've never seen somebody like Sean Hannity, who I don't know, but he had it on his show in New York. And the mayor got mad at me, and the mayor threatened 3 or 4 times to sue me for libel until he found out truth is the best defense against libel, and ended up ironing shirts in a federal prison somewhere. But I came back and they business council said, would you write another? And I told my wife, I'm going to write one more, and that's it, because she's rolling her eyes, And then he said, would you write every 3 weeks, and every week? And then Bill Shipp, an old friend of mine, said he would syndicate my column. And so 15 years later, I'm in about 30 papers around the state, and the most syndicated columns in the state. And it all started because they called me that day before I left for Scotland and said, but what I do, and I was telling Roy this, is you are my customers. I look on readers as my customers. And my wife has taken over my calendar. I make her sound like she's an onerous person. She's not. She's a dear person. She's mad at me right now. She's got a birthday coming up. I asked her what she wanted. She said something really sleek that would go from 0 to 150 in 3 seconds. So I bought her a bathroom scale. She's really angry with me. I tried to be. Anyway, she's taken over my schedule, and I don't speak as much as I did. But anywhere my column runs, I go out and speak to people, and I find my ideas from the columns from readers. I'm not smart enough to think up all this stuff. I get some great ideas from readers. Plus, I have this strong affinity for public education. I mean, boy, you'll get to the school teachers over my limp and lifeless body. So, anyway, that's how I got into it, by accident. And all the money, as I said, goes to a scholarship to go to the University of Georgia, so, which is very rewarding. Anything else? Yes, sir. Can the president ask a question, by the way?
So, speaking of things that Atlanta has blown, that we're about to blow, if you're not in favor of the TSPLOST, maybe the specifics of it, it seems like our city was founded on transportation. It used to be called Terminus, right? Then we did the airport, which was very visionary, and people could have made the argument, that's not going to pay for itself, it's not going to benefit me up in North Georgia. It seems like that's where we are now, where we've got all these small factions and nobody can look at the greater good.
Right.
What's your take on that? What should we do?
That's exactly what the issue is that there's nobody looking out for the greater good. We were just talking before lunch about Mr. Woodruff when he was in Atlanta, and Millsby Lane and Jack Tarver and all these people that had the greater good of the area. That's how we got the airport, Ivan Allen and William Hartsfield. The mistake, they've made two mistakes so far in the T-Splost. One is they picked the wrong horse to ride in that 8-mile route from Midtown down to Art Center. The biggest issue, I understand and I believe, is not from from Cumberland down to Midtown. It's across the county. And if they could look at some way to move traffic better across the county, I think they would have a better shot at getting that rail line. But what they've done with this 10-county thing is they have sort of picked and chosen what they want to do. And DeKalb County now is very seriously may oppose it because there's nothing for South DeKalb in this. And so I just, I'm good at solving problems that somebody else has created. But I think that 10-county voted up or down thing was not the best way to go at it. But we're really devoid of leadership right now. And I'll tell you why, and that is, when I was coming along, I worked for the telephone company, the power company, the banks, like Ivan Allen, people like that. There was a benevolent feeling towards Atlanta. This is the headquarters. All the companies now do worldwide business. So UPS or Delta or whoever, all of them that are here, I won't try to name them all. They've got as much interest overseas as they do here. Coca-Cola. And so there's just, the leadership is not there. I don't think the planning is that good. And so far, this kind of lecture mentality has really hurt. I don't want anybody telling me I have to do anything. And Tad Leahead is a good guy. I think he spoke to your club. Tad called me down at, I probably shouldn't say this, but he called me down at the beach and said, I really want to get together with you. I want to talk to you. I said, great. I mean, I'll give you a call. I ain't heard back from him. So, that's how I feel about that. Yes, sir.
Don't you think one of the big problems that we have is that because of the inept and the non-business-like attitude politicians have been using and the way they've wasted our resources, that we can't trust them anymore? Don't you think that has a lot to do with it?
Yes, sir, it does. And the problem is you can't get good people to run anymore. Not that they're not good people. Rich Golick is a guy that I'm very fond of. And my wife, Johnny Ives and Rich Golick, I better never say anything bad about either one of them. You will be about their children. But there's a disconnect. And they get down there and they get winded. Now, I was in Washington. I was Director of Public Affairs for AT&T. And those members of Congress get up there and the lobbyists fall over themselves, talking about how wonderful they are, they laugh at all the jokes and take them out to dinner and all this kind of. They don't want to come home and come to the Rotary Club and have to explain something you don't like, because they used to people telling them how wonderful they are. And it's that, and it's also we're losing the collegiality that bothers me. When I was in Washington, there was a collegiality up there. Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill fought from sun up to sundown. As soon as the sun went down, they were best buddies. And so they get together and talk about how to get things done. And this will be hard to believe, but Senator James Eastman from Mississippi, one of his acolytes was Ted Kennedy. Ed Kenny will go over and see me too, and Mr. Easton will talk about how the Senate worked, what the protocols were, and what the traditions were. You couldn't do that anymore. The media would report on this 24/7 media, and so they've gotten sort of in a bunker now. Nobody talks to anybody, and it bothers me. It really does. There's just a disconnect with the people now. And when Congress has got an 11% approval rating, I got that good a rating in Midtown Atlanta. Well, not quite, but almost. It should say something, but they're so locked, they're captured by the total right and the total left. And they forget there's a big middle out there of just people who just want things to work, and they can't get it done. So, let me end with two jokes. One, they're ecumenical. One's on the current president, and one's on the previous president. Well, this is not a joke, this is an actual comment. I was grieved when George Bush left office, because he was about as quotable as Earl Earhart is. Because, you know, sometimes his tongue got twisted up. But I was relieved when President Obama introduced a young man who was a medic as a corpse. And the guy looked around and thought, I'm not dead. But I thought there may be some hope. But it's hard to beat George Bush. George could just get things a little screwed up from time to time. And I'll leave you with this story and get my $5 ready. If you don't laugh, please laugh. President Bush had a bad day, just a bad day, and just being hammered all over the place. And Vice President Cheney came in and said, Mr. President, let's go to lunch. Let's just get out of here. And Bush said, I am ready. So they got up and they went around the corner and went to this little restaurant, a little cafe. And they walked in and the waitress said, oh my goodness, it's the President of the United States. Wait till I tell my children tonight. The President has been in my restaurant. Mr. President, you don't know what honor you do me. And of course he's sitting there, you know, a little quick smile on his face, nodding up and down. She said, oh, Mr. President, what can I get you for lunch? And he looked at her and gave her that little look, and he says, I want a quickie. She said, Mr. President, I cannot believe you would say something like that. That you would do that to me and to my family, and I was going to tell you, it's the greatest thing. I just ran out of the restaurant just squalling. And President Bush looked at Vice President Cheney and said, what did I say? And Vice President Cheney said, Mr. President, it's called quiche. Thank you very much.